YouTube, that should be coming up. There we go. Okay. The YouTube is live, Facebook should be live. Your music should be ready to go. Mic check when you're ready, and we're ready to rock and roll.
Gotta go to the bathroom. There's one for you.
Okay. Sorry. I know, he's ridiculous with stuff. He tries to do this thing. I can't even follow half this stuff when I'm trying to do, you know? And I think that's my intern was a little confused last week, but it's okay. It's okay. He's gotta learn. He's gotta learn.
I mean, I'm here if you need to, but I'm playing games.
Yeah, don't play games, please.
I'm playing games.
So you guys are going to Florida for what, a couple weeks or the end of till January or
Until the middle, until like January 6th or 8th or something like that.
spend it with his mom and dad?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that's his mom and dad?
His mom and his brother and my mom.
Oh, is that both down there?
Yeah, and they live about 20 minutes apart.
Oh, your family, so you don't have no family up here at all?
Yeah, I still have my brothers up here.
Oh, but not your parents?
No.
Oh, gotcha, okay. I was just assuming that it was just his mom. Okay.
No, that's, we take care of both.
Oh,
You know,
my God.
we visit both.
Bless your hearts.
Yeah, that's how we've been spending our vacations for the last.
It's not a vacation if you're doing that. I mean, believe me, it's not.
But that's our choice.
You're just good people, that's all. A lot of people don't think that way today.
Please don't think we're rude, but we're gonna be bolting out of
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, no, that's fine, that's fine.
We're driving
Got it.
3 hours tonight.
Gotta make it to Springfield, Virginia.
Oh, jeez. All right, so what I'll do here is when you have a phone call, I'll put phone call here so you know, okay? On the screen.
On the screen. Very good.
Try
They
to
did that for my Christmas party and now they're gonna.
Rob, did you get your script?
I got my script. Your
I got it.
your phone's your
My computer's working. Oh, this is real good.
You ready to start?
So, just a second. I need to think. I think I need to move over a little bit and adjust to where the mic is, because I'm stretching it as far as it'll go.
You can move over a little bit more.
Yeah. Okay.
Mic sound okay?
We're good.
All right, let's
We
go.
are good. Let's roll.
All right, you got it. 30 seconds. Recording. Music. Why it doesn't play? Oh, why it doesn't play? There we go.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's 9:45 on Thursday night, and that can only mean one thing. It's time for, believe it or not, the 19th installment of the Age Out Angels Radio Hour. I feel like I've been doing it since I'm 6 years old. My name is Greg Rapport. I'm the founder and executive director of Age Out Angels. Age Out Angels is an organization that provides mentoring program for youth ages 14 to 24. And this program is brought to you every week at this same time, courtesy of Doc G and the fine people here at Hamilton Radio, who allow us to use this airtime. Doc G is behind the big board tonight, along with DJ Danny. It's good to see you. Happy holidays, everyone. You know, I got to be honest with you. I don't say happy holidays. I say happy Hanukkah, or I say Merry Christmas.
Right.
And if someone is offended by that,
Well,
then, you know, you just got to let the chips fall where they may sometimes. I think if people celebrate Christmas, they're allowed to have it. And the same thing for Hanukkah. I don't say Happy Kwanzaa. I don't know why. I guess, you know why? Because it's not old enough yet. You know, like in 1,000 years, I will start saying Happy Kwanzaa. I am so grateful to all of our listeners for joining us. Please tell your friends because, as you know, I have an ulterior motive here. Because when people listen to shows like this, shows about child welfare and the child welfare system, sometimes they're moved to actually help a child. So if you're watching us on Facebook tonight, please take a second and share this with your friends. And please, and tell them to share it with their friends because, you know, it's really kind of a numbers game. If we reach enough people out there, then someone, no matter where they live, they will access an agency in their area and volunteer to help a child. So if you're out there thinking Age Out Angels is in New Jersey and I'm not, what can I do to help? It's as simple as hitting that share button and you'll be helping a child. Good news and bad news. Bad news, this is our last show for the year. Sad face. We're going to take a few weeks off and of course, wish everyone out there happy and healthy, and please be careful and drink responsibly. Season. But when we come back, it will be on Thursday, January 11th, and we will be at our new time slot of 8 p.m. So for those of you who have been fighting sleep to stay up and listen to our broadcast, and I know who you are, beginning January 11th, we're on every Thursday from 8 to 9 p.m. Look forward to having you in our listening audience. Quick announcements, as always, our theme music is courtesy of Kurt Seldenbridge, operator of The Cave, rehearsal recording space in Pennsylvania. If you have recording or rehearsal needs, you can get in touch with Kurt by emailing to thecave1876@gmail.com. Now, last week, I told you about a 16-year-old female who's a pretty nice kid. She gets good grades and aspires to go to college. And her birth mother relinquished the rights at birth to two aunts. Her guardians are two aunts who are not so young and beginning to experience health issues. And if you were to meet this girl in the street, you'd say, here's a good kid. And you'd mean that word respectfully. So anyway, she went to get her birth certificate to I think it was to get her driver's permit. And found out that her birth mother had changed her name. Now, why do people do that? Why would someone change the name of a child and not tell them? Well, 9 times out of 10, it's to commit fraud. That's what they're trying to do. They want to actually steal the child's identity, right? Steal the child's identity, take out a bunch of credit cards, spend a ton of money, get high in a big flat screen, and default, essentially, and leave the child holding the bag. And here's the thing. When a child is a child, under the age of 18, they don't even find this out. The address, the bills, all of the various notices don't go to where the child lives. They go to some other place, some other address. And the child doesn't know this. And here's where the child really gets screwed. Because at the age of 18 or 21 or whatever it happens to be, when they're ready to leave home and ready to get out and start an independent life, and they go to get an apartment, and the renter does a quick credit check and finds out that their credit score is basically zero. They've owed hundreds of thousands of dollars over a period of years and years and years. And that's typically what happens when a name change takes place. In fact, they don't even necessarily need to change the name to do it. Credit restoration is a huge part of the child welfare system. But good news is that does not necessarily appear to be what happened here. And the plot thickens and gets a little bit interesting. So stay with me on this, okay? When the legal documents were made, when the child was born, there was a clear provision that the birth mother would retain the rights to changing the name of the child. It's expressly written in the legal guardian contract and in the relinquishing of the parental rights, which are contracts. Those are both contracts. And it also says that the legal guardian cannot change the name. So of all the possible things they could have been thinking of in advance, right? They took the time to make a special provision having to do with the name change. Okay, so now the legal guardian, the grandmother and the aunt, or I guess it's great aunt, grandmother and the grandmother's sister, they're livid. They're like absolutely beside themselves, and it's very possible that well, two things. First, that they never actually read the legal paperwork all the way through, because who does? And the other thing is that maybe they were misled just a little bit, in what they were told it says. But the point is that they actually changed the name of this female at the age of 9 months. Child was born in January. In October of that same year is when the legal name change took place. So think about this now. The child has been living under a false name for most of her life. How do you feel if you're that child and you find out that who you are, not necessarily you, right? I mean, there's a couple of ways to look at it, I think. One way is to say, hey, what's in a name, right? What's the big deal? It's a different name, so what? Now your name used to be Jones, now it's Smith. Live with it, change your ID bracelet, and have a nice day. But I don't think people for whom that actually happens take it in that sort of lighthearted way. I don't think it's a cavalier notion to someone to find out that their legal name, is actually different. And then when she goes to get a driver's license, what name exactly is it that should be on that driver's license? What name is on her social security card? There are all these questions that this poor kid has to now answer about her identity. And my question to you out there is, and you can feel free to write this into me on the comments field on Facebook, is, okay, that's the situation. So you understand what it is. They changed the girl's name when she was 9 months old. She's now, I don't know, 16, I guess it is, and just found it out. Her guardians are livid, but there's nothing they can do about it. What's her next smart move? What is the best move that the child or her caregiver could make at this point? I'm going to give you a hint, okay? The hint is, on the original birth certificate, the child's last name is the name of the birth mother. There is no mention of a birth father because it was an immaculate conception. No, it wasn't. Because on the amended birth certificate, is the last name of the birth father. Think about this now. What is the smartest move that anybody in the studio? Doc G, Danny, Robin is here with us tonight. What is the smartest move that this girl can make? I'm gonna let you think about it for a second. Oh, you have an answer?
Sue for custody.
Sue for
Back child support.
Sue for right, exactly. Find that birth father and wring his neck for back child support. That man owes, assuming he's alive, which, is not always the case. But assuming that the gentleman is alive, find him and get 15, 16 years of back child support. And you know what? They're actually, I called some legal organizations this week because I wanted to find out, what kind of free legal help we could actually get for these people. And at first it looked like we were just going to be petitioning the court to change her name. But then we found out that we really couldn't, because her legal guardian is not allowed to change her name. So she can't get her name back. She can't get her old name back. But in the process of calling around Trenton, New Jersey, looking for free legal help, I found an organization, like a legal aid type society, and they said they wouldn't handle the name change. That's not something that they bother with, okay? But back child support, that's something they get behind in a big way. And they'll actually do it for free. There's no charge for it. So with that in mind, that's kind of the best advice that I think that we could give a person in that situation. Tonight I want to talk a little bit more about what life is like around the holidays for youth who live in out-of-home placements. it's a strange kind of time. I've invited some former guests on the show, Michelle and Shasha and Michael, and someone actually that you haven't heard from before named Zanaya, who's very interesting young lady, and sort of give us a kind of a feeling of what their lives were like during Christmas and holidays like this, which are so incredibly family oriented. And my first thought when I started talking to these people was, maybe you have bad stories, maybe you have good stories. Let's take the good, let's take the bad, and put them together. And then the more we talked, and the more I talked with social workers and people like that, they said to me, it's almost impolite. And this really brings up a double-edged sword. It's almost impolite to find out bad things that happen to a person in their childhood in this way. They lived in unstable homes. That half the time they were homeless or kicked out or run away or living in a strange kind of foster situation. They probably weren't showered with gifts every holiday season. So what do you want to do? You want to have these people relive some horrible experience in their lives for basically the amusement, of your listeners. And the double-edged sword here is that if those of us who have, what we consider to be fairly comfortable lives and holiday seasons filled with family and 8 crazy nights of Hanukkah, where you get a gift every night. And even though the last 2 nights you get underwear and socks, it doesn't matter because there's somebody out there who's saying, look, I bought these underwear and socks for you. And that means almost as much as the gift sometime. And it would certainly mean as much as a gift to someone who doesn't have anybody who's out there and supporting them. And the problem with the insensitivity of asking people to relive or recount tales of horrible Christmases past is that without them, we don't drive the point home effectively. It's one thing to tell you a story about a child who has a bad Christmas. It's another thing to hear it right from the person's mouth. And there's a million stories out there in the world of vulnerable children. A million stories about, not only about Christmases where they didn't get a present or any kind of stuff like that, but Christmases with alcoholic and drug addicted parents, Christmases where they're locked in closets, Christmases where things that happen to them are so unimaginable to the people who are listening to this show that if they were to tell you that story, then maybe you'd believe it. So curious about your thoughts on the subject. Feel free to write to me on Facebook or to call into the show. It's totally up to you tonight. But that's what we kind of want to dwell on a little bit is how the holidays treat. And a funny thing happened too the other night when I was talking to a person who adopted a young lady of Mexican descent and met recently her half sister, who is actually still living with that birth mother. She's a few years younger than the adopted girl. Now, the adopted girl was adopted into a beautiful, warm, loving family, a family that understands nurturing. And her half sister, who's a couple of years younger, stayed with the birth mother. And the birth mother, I'm not going to say lives in poverty, but the birth mother lives in means that are not close to what the adoptive daughter has grown up with, and does not have the skills. She doesn't have the skills or the tools, the birth mother, to give the kind of attention and nurturing and empathy that the adoptive mother has to give, right? So if you're thinking about this like it's a movie of the week, and you have the adopted girl who grows up in affluence, right? That's the prince or the princess in the tale of the Prince and the Pauper, right? So you have this girl who grows up in relative affluence, not Kardashian money, but relative affluence. And then you have the tale of this other girl who grows up um, without all of the things that the adopted girl has. And you have to say, which one would you rather be, right? You have to ask yourself that question. Would you rather have grown up in the affluent world, or would you rather have grown up with your birth mother? And the fascinating thing about it is that, like, on surface, when you don't really understand the humanity of it, on the surface you go, well, hell yeah, I'd go for the money. I'd love to grow up in the affluent house, right? But the fact of the matter is that the girl who grows up, the adopted girl who grows up in the affluent house, has her own unique set of issues and problems related, to the fact that she's adopted. For example, she's adopted into a family of who are not Mexican. They're just like a white middle class family, um, which is pretty cool. And she has private school education. But guess what? In her beautiful, wonderful, luxurious private school, she's the only girl who shows up as Mexican. She's in a big, beautiful school with all the opportunity in the world alone. And she looks at her birth mother and her birth mother's situation, and she says, why? How come you left me behind? Why am I the person um, who isn't getting in touch with my Mexican heritage? And of course, she's not processing the other side of that coin, which is that her half sister, um, doesn't have um, a desk. In fact, her half sister does her homework on the floor, um, and so this holiday season, the girl who has all the affluence is going to get a lot of good presents, and a lot of cool things are going to come her way. Um, but her personal identity and her wondering about her birth mother and what life would have been like, that is also something that kind of stays with her, and haunts her just a little bit. So it's not kind of a black and white issue. Um, oh, I want to say hi to some people who are out there listening. Imera is out there listening. Hi, thanks for tuning in tonight. Robin is out there. Mary says greetings from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Mary, if you'd like to call into the show tonight, we'd love to have you on. Give us a call and tell us what your Christmases were like when you were living in and out of home placement. The number is 609-807-2492. 609-807-2492. We'd love to have you guys call in. A couple of announcements. Bank of America. Banks do As a student leader, they will participate in an 8-week paid internship at a local nonprofit organization, where they will learn firsthand about the needs of our communities and the critical role nonprofits play. In addition, they'll learn valuable civic, social, and business leadership skills. Each student leader will attend the Student Leaders Summit held in Washington, D.C., where they'll learn how government, business, and the nonprofit sector work together to address critical community needs. So if you have questions about this program, if you think you know someone who might be appropriate, that I wanted to send out your way. This is kind of interesting. There's a program called Safe Stop New Jersey. It's the New Jersey Attorney General's Safe Stop Initiative. Provides information for the general public about what to do and what not to do during a traffic stop to ensure that all stops are safe and fair. The Safe Stop New Jersey website is intended to help diminish confrontations during traffic stops and to raise individuals' self-awareness during stops. It is targeted at both law enforcement and community stakeholders, and the videos contained on the site are intended to shed light on the varying perspectives that are present during stops and to encourage mutual respect. Be encouraged to use these resources as part of your community justice, know your rights, or even defensive driver programming. It can also be included as a component of health or civics classes. I'm assuming that probably whatever state you are in has something similar. And if it doesn't, well, you can certainly access the Safe Stop New Jersey website. I'm sure it's out there for anyone to access on the internet and learn yourself and teach the people around you how to go about, you know, being part of a traffic stop where you feel terrible right from the beginning and not make the situation worse. I think a lot of times, and I've seen this in videos of stops that have gone bad where people have been killed. A lot of times I'm seeing police appear to be scared. And I know you think of rough, tough police and certainly ones who are maybe a little bit overbearing. You don't think of them as being the scared type. And if there's any police out there listening, I'm sure you don't think of yourselves as being the scared type. But the fact of the matter is that when police make a traffic stop, they don't know what's behind that window. And with all of the not just the guns being purchased right now, but all of the rules now that are saying that are making it possible that if a person has a gun carry permit in a state where you can do that and goes to a different state that they're allowed to carry in that state. And I think we have a phone call coming in right now. Do we have a caller on the line?
Yeah, I'm trying to get him.
Looks like we're trying to reel him in.
Yeah.
Okay. While we're waiting, just let me give another thanks to the people here at Hamilton Radio. You know, this is a very community-minded station, and they support a ton of worthy causes. They give voice to the voiceless. Do we have our caller in?
Skype is not cooperating.
Hi,
Hi, who's out there?
Shasha.
Shasha! Oh, I'm so glad you called. I'm so glad you
Yeah.
called. We haven't heard from you
No problem.
in a very long time, and we have really important stuff to discuss tonight, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
Yes, we do. So you were, just to remind our listeners, you were the person you were actually in the foster program. You were adopted by your foster mother, and you were between semesters. It was summer break between college, and your foster mother became very ill and subsequently passed away. And suddenly you found yourself homeless during summer break.
Yeah, that's correct. Me and my dad had issues, and it didn't go so well. So.
Yeah. So all right. So basically, we met you when we were sort of helping you kind of collect your things from different places and just get you back into college and get your books, right?
Yep.
Okay.
You guys helped me move in. You guys helped me get my books the beginning of my the start of my junior year. So
Yeah, and you're about
I'm
to,
actually finishing.
you're finishing that now. Are you in finals now?
Yeah, I actually have a final tomorrow, and that'll be my last class. So.
Okay, and so what kind of grades are we looking at here, Shasha?
A's and B's.
A's and
Nothing but A's and
B's.
B's.
Oh, you can't see this, but everyone in the studio is giving you a big thumbs up for A's and B's. Because you're working hard too. You have a few jobs, right?
Yeah, I actually have 2 jobs. I work all week at a the daycare center on campus, and I get up at 7:30 a.m. in the morning on Saturdays. I work at the mailing services.
Wow. And I mean, it's so cool the way you worked it out that you have 2 jobs, but what you don't have are transportation issues to get to those 2 jobs, do you?
Well, luckily they're on-campus jobs,
Yeah.
so the pro is that they're easy to get to, but the con is that they don't provide a lot of money because they have certain rules for students on campus. We can't work more than 20 hours on campus.
Right. Okay. So
Yeah.
So you're kind of like a football scholarship there, huh?
Yeah.
Just,
Basically, like they don't want you to work too much, but it's like the financial stability is pretty hard. So it taught me to kind of learn how to save up.
yeah,
And manage my money very well.
absolutely. You can be there, but you got to be poor. Okay. So here's where we are now, right? You're going to be allowed to stay in the dorm during winter break.
Yep.
Right?
We get to stay here for free. All students stay here for free during winter break.
Okay, and it's the same dorm you've been living in all along, right?
Yeah, we don't move.
Okay, all right. So you're allowed to be in that dorm. And so that's good. So we got a roof over your head without working too hard for it. Okay?
Right.
But now tell everyone what the issue is.
So the down part is that they mostly close all of the dining services on campus. So you're stuck providing for yourself with food for almost 4 weeks. So that's where it gets a little iffy because I won't be working. And I think they do have one place open, but it's only open for certain days, certain amount of time. And they don't really know. So that's the down part.
Yeah, okay. So you can live in the dorm, and then they come back and round up the skeletons at the end of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it gets very expensive ordering all the time. It's not the best way to go.
All right, so we have to figure out what we're going to do about this, right? Because you're not going to starve to death.
Right.
That's not going to happen. All right, so here's the question. First of all, I want to know: are you going to be alone in the dorm, or are there going to be others there, or at least in the building?
Well, I have one roommate. She's going home for winter break, but we might hang out during the winter break. And I also have a couple of friends actually in my dorm who are staying because they work at the mall and it's close to campus, so they're actually staying for winter break and some are taking their classes. So I do have a couple of friends in the building that will actually be here, which is pretty relieving. So that's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm thinking safety first, and there's safety in numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what do you have in the way of a refrigerator?
Well, my refrigerator, thank God, I got it on sale freshman year. It's a fridge with a freezer, and it actually is very well. Like, it holds our food pretty good. Like, our milk will last pretty well. Mm-hmm. We buy ice cream and stuff, and it lasts for a very long time. So, freezer.
Is it big? I mean, is it big, like a regular size?
So, when you think of a mini fridge, think of a mini fridge deluxe. That's pretty much what it is. It's like a mini fridge deluxe. So it's pretty big. It'll hold about a few. It's a mini fridge, but it'll hold pretty good amount of food.
Will it hold a week's worth of food?
Yeah, it would. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you have a deluxe mini fridge. We'll call it a mid-size. We'll call it a mid-size.
Yeah.
Okay, and then now, what do you have for anything to cook with? Do you have microwaves? Do you have an oven?
Well, yeah, we do have a microwave. Sadly, my dormitory, we don't have a kitchen, so we pretty much are limited to the microwave, which kind of is the hard part.
Yeah. All right. So there's no oven.
No, we don't have like a student kitchen. Like there are dorms that do have it, But those are the fancy doors that cost a lot of money.
Okay.
So I try not to move into those doors
All
because
right.
of financial aid.
Oh yeah. Do you have a
So-
hot plate?
No, I don't.
Okay. Cross off the hot plate. What do you do to make a hot drink? Do you have a coffee maker, a Keurig, something like that?
Well, we're actually not allowed those. We're like allowed espresso, shake. Like we're not. Those aren't allowed in the building because I guess they're fire hazards.
Okay.
So that's probably why Dunkin' was open till midnight, but it's not gonna be open during the break. So
So
Yeah.
the only way for you to make a hot drink is in the microwave.
yeah,
Okay.
limited to the microwave.
All right. So for cooking for yourself is going to be limited to the microwave. Okay. And the dates, what are the actual dates? When's the first day you're going to be hungry?
December 22nd all the way to January 16th.
January 16th. Okay. Now, is there going to be anything open on campus where you can buy a meal?
The dining services will be open on campus. So we have a diner on campus, which is pretty cool. It actually, shockingly, is going to be open during the break, but the hours are different. They're not open all night. Like it's usually a 24-hour diner, but they're different during the break. It's actually going to be about 7:30 a.m. to I believe maybe 6 p.m. at the latest,
Mm-hmm.
from Monday through Thursday. I don't think they're open Friday.
Okay. So what it would appear to me is that once a week we need to figure out a way for you to get shopping,
Yeah.
right?
Like we do have a shopper shuttle that goes to Target. I just don't know if it'll be running. So like we do have transportation to get to Target. That's the only place they really takes you to an outlet with Target in it to go shopping.
Does that Target have food?
Yeah, yeah. That Target has food. Thank God.
Okay. And all right, so there's a shopping shuttle to go to Target, but what did you say? What did you just say about it? You're not sure what's running. What did you say about that?
The shuttles. I will have to see if the shopper shuttle actually running during the break.
Oh yeah, you got to find that out. You have to find that out and like tell me right away.
So I'll probably ask my RA.
Okay, yeah. Find that out and let me know as fast as you can.
I will.
All right, because that's important. If you don't have that, then that means we got to figure out a transportation scheme,
Yeah, exactly.
right? To get
That's
you
the plan.
to the shopping. What do you think? What do you think would be a budget for a week's worth of food for you and your microwave? Think peanut butter, think lean cuisine.
With everything that's happened, and living with my friend and their customs and stuff, I actually had to do that a lot, budget for a week of food. And I could, if I really budget down, I could get enough stuff for $50 if I was at the right store. Target probably would be a little bit more because Target's expensive. But I could budget on $50, $60 worth of a week's food.
Okay.
Because I don't I don't care about name brand. I just want to make sure I'm not starving.
Oh, I hear you. And not only that you're not starving, but also that you're buying things that you can actually make with the limited resources that you have.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's sort of a combination of food that would be in refrigerator or freezer, but also food that might not be in refrigerator or freezer.
Exactly. Yeah.
In order to to make sure that things don't spoil and that it lasts. Because if you run out, then you're out, right? Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. So what we're talking about here, December 22nd to January 16th, we're basically looking at 3 weeks.
Yeah, about
right?
3 weeks.
Maybe 3 weeks and change, something like that. So at $60 a week, what we're talking about is a whopping $180, right?
Right.
That's what we're talking about, $180. I just hope our listeners are out there paying careful attention to this.
$180.
Because we're talking about $180, the difference between a person, living relatively normally, although it's going to feel a little bit like camping, but still relatively normally, and starving. What would you do? What would a person do? You'd be begging, right? I mean, seriously,
Yeah,
you'd be
that's
begging.
crazy. Yeah.
You'd be hitting up every friend you know, every relative you know.
Yeah, I've definitely been in that situation before, and it gets kind of like you get mentally exhausted because you're like, oh my god, like do they think I'm just hitting them up because I always need something, or yeah, it's hard sometimes.
Yeah.
Because it's like where do you cross that line? Like, you know, this is your friend, and like also like I remember that my friends are students too. They're like growing up the same age as me. Like we're on the same boat of responsibility. So, you know, even though my struggle is hard, they still go through things. I don't want to take advantage of what they're going through because I know it's hard. Because I'm like, you know, I'm in their shoes pretty much in a deeper situation, but still.
Right, absolutely. I was talking to somebody the other day who said, you know, someone asked me to lend them $40, and I said no. And the reason they said no is because A, they don't have $40 extra to give, and B, they couldn't, you know, they could never return a favor if a favor was granted to them. So
yeah,
so it gets really kind of impossible, I think, you know, is the word.
Yeah,
that
it
comes to
really
mind.
does. It's hard because it's like you ask your friends, can you help me out? But then it's like, can I help them out? And it's you don't want to cross boundaries. You don't want to lose, you know, your friends. And it's like survival of the fittest, to be honest.
Yeah.
Survival of the fittest.
And it shouldn't have to be. You know, you're what are you, 19, 20 years old, 21, something like that, right?
Yeah, I'm 20.
Yeah, you're 20 years old. Your life should be spent working hard at the college the way you're trying to do and seeing your goals and goodness gracious, you are so close. You're like a year and a half away now from either getting out there and working and being independent or going on to grad school. And that's what your life should be about. You know, it shouldn't be about God scrounging around like that trying to figure out where your next meal is coming from. That just doesn't seem fair somehow. So you know what? I mean, we'll definitely make sure that you get the cash to do that in one way or another. I'm not sure exactly what the best way to do it is. It might be in the form of a Target gift card if that works. But you have to tell me first if the shuttle is available for you. Shasha, are you there?
No, tell the computer died.
Oh, we lost the phone connection.
I think the computer is the problem.
You think the computer fried?
I think so.
Yes.
There's a very bizarre smell of smoke in the room right now. Are we broadcasting still?
We're broadcasting this.
We're broadcasting. Okay.
You're in the dark.
So we're a little bit in the dark.
Trying to find out what it was.
So we're on audio, but we're not on the video anymore, right?
You're still on.
Okay, good. Then we are still on the video. I'm sorry, I'm looking at a computer monitor there that went dark, which is the phone. That was the phone monitor. Okay. All right. So Shasha, if you're out there and you're listening, you got to find out for us if that shuttle is working, and we are not going to let $180. Age Out Angels would never let $180 stand in between a person eating and not eating. It's insane. And Shasha's not alone. You know, there's a million college students who are out there across the country who are facing the same madness. It's absolutely positively insane that people have to go through that. So moving along, I guess, you know, the phones are not working, right?
No, because that was that computer.
Yeah, the phones were attached to the computer that seems to have fried.
I think it did.
That's where I smell it coming from.
So we're gonna miss our other callers tonight.
I'm sorry.
So let me just take a minute and tell you what they were going to say. Because I did take the time to pre-interview them this afternoon, and well, first of all, we were going to hear from Zanaya, and the message that Zanaya wanted everyone to hear, and this is critically important. Okay, so even though it's coming from my mouth and not hers, please pay careful attention to this because this is critically important. You need to know this. Zanaya wanted everyone to know that she has absolutely no reason to recount stories of Christmas past. She wants you to understand that what's most important is that a person who you know who might not have anything going on in this holiday season, who might not have family, who might not have any support, that if you just contact that person, just let them know that there's a warm body out there who's thinking about them. This meant so much to her when we were speaking this afternoon. And right now, Zanaya is living in a facility called Roots and Wings, which is in Middlesex County, New Jersey, and it's a fine facility. And she's doing really well. She's really come a long way since we first met her about a year ago. And she was sort of half living on a couch and half living in her car. And gifts are nice, and I'm sure she'd accept them. But the support, it's the human support, the human touch, the human kindness, the human validation, a little bit of empathy, a little bit of nourishment, a card, a phone call, a text, an email. If you know someone who's out there like that. And when I spoke to Zanaya this afternoon, because of the work that I do with Age Out Angels, it made me immediately think that, you know, in the next week, I got to make about 150, 200 phone calls to people who I believe now, after speaking with her, will feel something warm, just because, you know, they'll know that I'm thinking about them. So that was Zanaya's message, and what she wanted to tell you guys about. Michelle was going to talk about Christmas past, and I'm sorry we're not going to get a chance to hear from Michelle tonight.
Hold on, we still can't. Hold on.
I think they're trying to get the phones back working, so maybe we'll be able to get some phone calls in. Michael, I don't know if you remember Michael or not. Michael was on the show a lot of times in the beginning, sort of in the first like 5 or 6 episodes. He was on the show about 3 times, maybe 4. And people are now calling my cell phone. Michael had sort of a different experience than a lot of other people who lived in out-of-home placements, and his message was so positive. It's Michael, yeah, but I can't talk to him on my cell phone. He's gotta. We have to be able to get him through.
And put him through the mic that way.
If you can put him through, if there's a way that you can put him through, that'd be great, because tell him I'm about to tell his story for him. I'd rather hear it come from him. How can they do that? I'm not sure. What we have is radio silence. I can't, you want to put him on speaker of my cell and then put that into the microphone and see if that works? Okay.
Mike?
You can put him on Skype. I got Skype up on.
Michael, are you there? Michael? Hello? Michael, are you there?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, can you hear Michael through the Michael, can say hello.
Hello.
Can you hear him?
Can you hear? Dude, it's great to hear your voice. One of our computer boards fried, and it's the one that works the telephones.
Oh, okay, I got you.
But we're so glad that you called in on my cell, man. That's so cool. I was just about to tell your story, and now you can tell it yourself. Just to remind our listeners, in case they didn't hear you, because it's been a few weeks since you've been on the show.
Right.
Your experience in out-of-home placement was not the kind of horror story that we hear from a lot of other people, correct?
No, I think very good one. I had no problem. It was actually a better life than I would have had on Church and Friends.
Yeah, when you were at home living with your biological parents, granted you had 2 parents there, but it was like a bad neighborhood, right? It wasn't a comfortable.
Yeah, it was in the project.
Yeah, you were living in the projects. Were you getting bullied?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It was like I said, even at Christmas time it was always nice at home, but like at the home, in the children's home, it was a great. Christmas is always good for me. I never had a bad Christmas.
So tell me some of the things that now you were in. You call it the children's home, but for our listeners, they have to understand that's like one of the old orphanages, right?
That's what it was, yes.
Yeah.
But when I was there, it was more of a children's home, but there were a couple kids that are orphans, but most of the orphans were it was called an orphan because back in the old days when people and parents would die, like during the Depression and different things like that, was always, you know, that's what they started as an orphanage, but later on became a home for anybody that needed it.
Right,
And
right,
there was
right.
a lot of, and wasn't just Catholics. I mean, it was Catholic, but it was also everybody, anybody. It was all different nationality, different religions,
Right.
and stuff like that.
And how many years? How many years were you in the
I
home?
was there 4.5 years.
Okay. So you had 4 Christmases, right?
Yes.
Okay. So tell our listeners some of the things that they did back then.
Back in usually around the beginning of December, all the way through New Year's, they were every weekend we would go to a different party. They'd have parties for like all over Mercer County and like down there Fort Dix on it. And like the one at Fort Dix, they would shut it. One of the hangars was McGuire. They would shut their bring. They come get us in one of their buses. They'd bring us down to the school, down to the hangar, and they'd have a whole Christmas party, like a whole buffet.
And McGuire is the Air Force Base, right? McGuire is the Air Force Base in New Jersey. Okay, go ahead.
And they would open up the hangar. They would empty out the hangar, and they'd have a whole big buffet, anything from soup to nuts, and they would have like Santa Claus, and they'd give us all kinds of presents and everything. And then another one we did, they used to close down the Marrow Inn, and they'd have us all up at the Marrow Inn up in Lawrenceville. It used to be right off Route 1. It was like one of the most nicest Italian restaurants around.
Oh, really?
It was right off of Route 1. It's right now, I think it's behind the Dodge dealer. The Dodge, it's a road that goes way back over there. And but it was one of the nicest restaurants around. They would close the dining room. They'd buy us all kinds of presents and everything. They'd have like a big Italian dinner for us.
Wow, Michael, how many kids are we talking about here?
Probably 100.
Really?
Yeah, between the boys and the girls on both sides. It was close. I said some of the times it was probably close to 100 kids.
That's like 2 buses.
Yeah.
Right.
They would take us down there. They would take us down. We went all over the place. And sometimes people would come to. We had a big gymnasium at the temple. I mean, at the school, and people would come and set up the gymnasium. They have all kinds of presents for us. It was like I said, the whole Christmas was like the whole month of December.
Michael.
And people treated us really nice. And different organizations would. Same with Easter. Easter was the same way. Like different holidays. Any kind of holidays, there's always people coming there, like doing stuff with the kids and stuff like that. During the summer, we spent in Columbus, which was down at Wicked River. We would spend 2 weeks there every summer.
Wow, it's almost like camp.
Yeah, we go there and we stay there for 2 weeks. We literally stayed overnight. It wasn't coming back home early. We literally stay on the camp for 2 weeks.
Michael, let me ask you, of all those kids, of those 100 kids there, any of those kids get adopted, or was that part of the deal?
Some of the kids got adopted, and some of it's where their parents weren't going to take them back, and some of the kids went back to parents after they came straight, and some of the kids went to different foster homes like I did. They branched to foster homes, and some of the kids I actually saw in Trent. I've met up over the years. I've probably met up with maybe a couple dozen people that I've known from there. I've actually met with people that were younger or older than me that was there at different times before I was. Right out. My brothers were actually, 2 of my brothers were there when they closed it down in I think it was 74.
Now, when you
I was there, I left in 72. They closed it like the summer of 74.
Right. Now, when you went on and went to live then with your foster family, was that on a farm? Was that your story?
It was 1 year. I was on a farm, and then later on, about a year, we were on a cow farm. Then we moved to Princeton Nursery, which was in Allentown. That's where I stayed until I went in the Army.
Okay. And then, so what were your Christmases like then when you were with your foster family?
Oh, they were great. It was 11 of us.
I love this guy.
I count my foster. It was 11 of us, and then we had aunts and uncles and all that. It was great. It was a really nice. We always had nice Christmases over there. Everybody had the same presents, and we didn't have a lot of money. She took care of everybody. There was always money. There was always stuff for everybody.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Food, imagine food. It was like the Waltons, like food for we'd have a big table with anything from soup to nuts.
That's great, Michael. You are the perfect story to end our broadcast year on. I thank you so much for you know, for sharing that with us, because, you know, there's a whole lot of horror stories out there, and it's just
Oh,
so,
I heard them. Believe me, I've heard you guys talk about them.
yeah,
Even today, you see on the news, it's terrible.
yeah.
Some of the stuff that you read about and hear about and everything.
Hmm.
But then, like I said, there was foster, even back in the olden days, there was foster families that did it for the money. But
Yeah.
I got lucky.
Yes, yes, and your story is so beautiful and so heartwarming. I want to thank you very much for calling in tonight, Michael. I want to wish you Merry Christmas, right?
Merry Christmas.
Merry
And Hanukkah. You can say Hanukkah too.
Okay.
I celebrate them all.
You celebrate them all. That's the spirit, my
Yeah.
friend. You take care of yourself. I'll talk to you real soon, okay?
Take care. Have a good one.
All right, buddy. Bye-bye. Now, isn't Michael's story the absolute perfect story, you know, to end a year? That's like a Christmas miracle, Michael's story. I just love it. And it just gives you hope. You know, you have a story like that, it just gives you hope. Interestingly, how, you know, the population there was concentrated in that home, in the children's home. And so I wonder if that just made it logistically easier for people who wanted to volunteer time and stuff like that to just go. That was the center, the Mecca, you know, for where those children were. So there's something else that I do need to tell you guys about coming near the end of this broadcast, in this broadcast year for us. I want to tell you about a Trenton board called the TPPB. The Trenton Prevention and Protection Board. And when President Obama was the president, he set aside funds for at-risk communities. And you know the names of all the cities, Detroit, Chicago, and Trenton is certainly among them. To develop an action plan to try to end youth violence, but I guess it's more like try to stem the tide of youth violence. And when you listen to that, you know, like government funding available to large cities to help end youth violence, it just sounds like a bunch of BS, doesn't it? Like that's just another one of those programs where a whole lot of money's going to get spent and nothing actually ever happens. Right? The Trenton Prevention and Policy Board is the organization in Trenton that is trying to use this funding and live up to this mandate. And we had a symposium last Monday, and if you walked in the door thinking this might be a bunch of BS, you walked out the door a total believer. And I'll tell you why. They had people from Cleveland, Boston, Camden, some places, Newark, some places where they have already been enacting this program. And the results are really kind of startling. If the entire community pulls together, I mean the entire community has to pull together, then there are ways to occupy youth, to help them get direction, to help them get a little bit of self-esteem. It actually, to some degree, can be done. And the amazing thing was the drive, the level of drive. I was talking to a gentleman who runs an organization in Camden, and his point was that if you look at statistics about homeless youth and foster youth and people like that whose outcomes are bad, you know, if an organization had a 30% success rate, they were heralded as, you know, as being cutting edge. And his whole point was that a 30% success rate isn't good enough. It's just not enough. And then he laid out a whole bunch of methods that need to be employed in order to make that success rate be a lot more. Not 30%, but the other 70%. And you know what we need to do in order to get that. So you should know that there are some very, very inspiring policies that are in the works right now that people who are out there fighting the good fight every day, are coming together little by little. It's taken a long time, and it'll take a longer time, but little by little, people are coming together and starting to coordinate with each other. Now, so we started to do what's called asset mapping. And what that basically means is start to make a list and a map of who are all of the organizations. And believe it or not, like in the Trenton area, there's something like 180. In Mercer County, there's 180 nonprofits, right? And I was talking to one of the freeholders who happened to be at the symposium, and one of the things that came up was, I wonder how many of us are overlapping funds, essentially using different money for the same goal, when we could be pulling our funds together and working together to make things happen. So we just started to do asset mapping and got maybe 50 organizations, put on a map so we can start to understand where they are. And then if you go to a website called Newark Thrives, it's Newark, New Jersey, not Newark, Delaware. Newark, New Jersey, newarkthrives.org, I think. You'll find this incredibly well-developed website where they not only have their assets all clearly mapped, but you can click on the map and you can find out, all kinds of information like the hours of operation and what each one of the assets specializes in. They've done just an absolutely amazing job. Newark is a really, really coming up city, and so that's kind of the message that I want to leave you with as we close out our broadcast year. Remember that on January 11th, when we return, we'll be at our brand new time slot, 8 p.m. We'll be in prime time. We're going to have a lot of fabulous guests and people who are going to tell you more about the child welfare system and hopefully have some real good stories to report. We're going to make sure that Shasha gets fed over winter break. And as always, want to thank our people who called in and give a huge thank you to the people here at Hamilton Radio. Thanks for hanging in there with this broadcast tonight as we started smelling smoke. It would have been easy for everyone to run out of the building in a mad dash, but we didn't. And so I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and Happy Hanukkah and Happy Kwanzaa and Happy anything else that you celebrate. And I hope you do it healthfully. And I hope if you drink responsibly. And I'll look forward to seeing all of you again in 2018. So with that, I think we'll end this broadcast and see you all again in the new year. A little music, if you please.
Sure.
Unless we lost the music board.
No, we're good.
Okay, guys.
There we go. Good night.
Sorry, guys. I'm so glad we got Michael on. I got Skype up on the other computer, but that was the problem.
Great. That's how you learn.
I knew something happened when the computer just died.
Well, when we started smelling,
But that's when you smell it and then you can find the smell.
dangerous.
It'd be very dangerous. Well, I always think of ballast because
Yes.
the ballast in the computers.
Uh-huh.
I mean, in the
In the
Yeah,
lights.
I know,
The
I
lights.
didn't feel any heat coming from the
No.
ceiling, but-
that's the first thing I look for too. Thanks for
Well,
hanging in there,
Hey,
guys.
thanks everybody.
Thank
Great-
you.
Great job hanging in there while we
Yeah.
were all running around looking for fire.
Well, you know, I mean, you can't take it lightly because you don't know.
No, you
Because
don't.
you don't know what's gonna be right on.
Scary.
So which computer?
No one there.
So wet fried.
Probably, it's gotta be the hard drive, because that's the only thing that's gonna shut it down, or could even be the power inside, but it doesn't feel real hot. Although when you were on Skype, everything shut down, so I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Or somebody shut everything down.
Well, we had a demonologist in here before. The last time we had him on, we couldn't even get on Facebook. We couldn't get, there's a lot of I'm
I
serious.
love creepy things.
I'm not trying to say that in a bad way, but
Yeah, he should stop leaving the demons around. Here's your pen.
he does bring them around with him.
Yeah.
Cause he goes from
Did you
house to
smell it
house and
over
stuff.
here?
What?
Did you smell it pretty bad over
Yes,
here?
yeah, I could.
When did you start smelling it? When we smelled it?
No, I'm sure I smelled it, but I was sort of busy,
Right.
you know, thinking about other things.
And then when we
It
started.
wasn't this. This is really hot.
Maybe that's what it is.
I don't smell it on it, but it's hot as blazes.
It is very hot.
You know, I was actually doing a job once at a corporation.
Everything is cool here. I mean, this is warm, but
Yeah, I was doing a job
yeah,
once
smell,
at a
smell.
But then
corporation.
there's no smell coming.
There's no smell, but it's hot.
yes. Nah, it's not really that.
So I was doing
It's
it.
warm. It's warm. It's not super. I mean, that was super hot. I can see what you're saying.
I was doing a job at a corporation where the sales reps were real anal retentive, right? And they would take their cables and wrap them around this power source, right? They'd wrap them really tight, like that. Okay? And it set the place on fire.
Because you're pulling the wire.
It actually lit. It lit up.
You're pulling the wire.
Yep.
I tell people that all the time. Never, as a road crew, I used to say that to guys all the time. Never wrap the wires tight. Never. Always leave slack in them. Because you're not only going to break the wire for the performance, it could cause a fire.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And there you go. You just proved it.
Yeah.
You guys have a safe trip. And hopefully everything will be here next week. Next
Oh
time you
God!
come here.
Don't even think it.
Well, I'll be honest with you. This place is under demolition. Eventually, after we're done,
Right.
when the new place is built, but I don't want to demolish it too early.
Okay, let me get my what do you call it? My
We got a lot of stuff in here to lose, you know.
let me get my
Yeah.
thumb drive.
I don't even want to think about it.
Oh God, that would be devastating.
I know, but I don't even want to think about it. But I just saw a fire truck go by. A lot of scary stuff going on. It's just triggered my anxiety a little bit.
Well, we're going to Wendy's, does that make it better?
No, because I
Well,
don't
that
know
was
what's
the
going on
thing,
here.
The two things that happened, you
You're gonna be
accidentally
staying at
left
the
your phone
studios?
on.
I'm gonna work tomorrow.
No,
Right.
And Michael thought to call it.
Yeah.
Don't be.
And Shasha got through. I wonder what happened. There were supposed to be 2 other callers though.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I
One
think
other
what happened
caller
was,
calling.
what I think happened was, even though Skype was up and it was working, what happened was that hard drive started going. I seen Skype, when you got that call, that girl,
Yeah.
Sasha, I think that what happened was Skype was starting to go then because I was trying to get it on. And then and after that, then just,
Yeah.
you know.
But I mean, I was supposed to get a call at 9:50.
No, that's what I'm saying. It might have been all along
Yeah.
Had
that
a
problem.
Okay.
Even though I had it on, I didn't know. I didn't know.
Yeah.